Welcome to Newcastle Fan Channel, the channel that's talking everything Newcastle United. And today's video we're going to talk about a few of the managerial candidates who've been linked with Newcastle over the last few days. So the two who've kind of come up in particular has been Patrick Viera, Steven Gerrard. They're the two I'm going to talk about. So Viera, obviously, he's just had a season in Nice, where he did quite a solid job in the French league. He's previously, when we went for Steve McLaren, unfortunately, we interviewed Patrick Viera, but I think they wanted McLaren because he was more happy with doing the kind of being the head coach rather than being the manager. So Viera, I think, would be looking to get in at Newcastle, in a Premier League club. However, I think, would he leave a solid job in Nice, where if he continues to do solidly, he'll probably get looked at for bigger jobs in France and possibly other Premier League jobs. You never know, the Arsenal job might come up, which probably would be the job that he would desire the most. Or would he take a gamble and go to Newcastle, where we all know our limitations and we all know that you would be working for an owner who basically doesn't give you any money, having your best players sold off. And this is a big problem, I think, for most coaches. I mean, if I was interviewing for the Newcastle job, I would want to know what's going to happen with Perez, what's going to happen with Longstaff. Because if you're a coach and you're going in and they're telling you, yeah, well, we're going to sell Perez, we're going to sell Longstaff, what are you going to work with, basically? Obviously, they're a good set of players in terms of character and personalities. But as a manager, if you're losing your best players, and I think a lot of players are more likely to have their heads turned now that Rafa has left, then, what is the attraction to the job? So I think Viera would probably think long and hard, and I personally, if I was their friend or someone, whilst I think it's a great opportunity for them, I would say to them, be careful, because Mike Ashley is a very unpredictable owner. You don't know what he's going to do. He's got a history of lying to his managers and telling them things and promising them things and breaking them. So for me, for Viera, it'd probably be quite a risk, because he has a good setup at Nice, and if he can, like I said, if he continued to do well, he'd probably be considered for other jobs with more stable ownership. The other one has been Steven Gerrard, which, again, a great player, has had one season at Rangers, did very, very well, I think, actually, closed the gap on Celtic a bit. However, still, there was a few questions regarding their style of play, and also some of his signings were, seen. He obviously brought in players from Osijek, who Rangers played in the Europa League, and they've struggled to make huge impact. So he has actually signed, but he's quite active in the transfer market at the moment. It seems to me that he's planning to go ahead. So I would expect that he'd probably want to stay another season at Rangers, because he's been planning and so forth, and he's signed quite a few players, so I don't think the Newcastle owner and the Newcastle offer would be that enticing for him. Steven Gerrard, if he does a good job at Rangers, will have his pick of Premier League clubs. I mean, Premier League clubs will go on because it's Steven Gerrard. If you look at what happened with Frank Lampard, once he did a solid or good job at Derby, it was straight away that Chelsea came calling. And I'm sure if Steven Gerrard continues improving, if Rangers close the gap on Celtic even more, played with a good style of play, then he would have lots of offers. So does he want to risk that all, a solid setup at Rangers, to come to Newcastle, and then, again, dodgy owner, might not have the transfer budget, and then as well could have his best players sold from underneath him? I mean, I just don't, for these two, I don't see the risk. I think they might see themselves as probably too good for Newcastle at the moment, and it pains me to say that, but it's the truth. We have to think now that because of our owner and because of our transfer budget and because of the way the club's run, we're probably not that attractive. And I think this is what happened when we went and got Steve McLaren, that there weren't that many top coaches who wanted to come. Unbelievably, Rafa came because he loved, the idea of Newcastle, and he saw similarities between Newcastle and Liverpool, and he thought he could work with it. But I don't think it will happen again. I think the only people who might be enticed to it are people who need a chance, who aren't managers at the moment, or people who have failed in their previous jobs, who basically need some sort of rehabilitation. Probably Rafa, when he came, if you remember, he had that not very good spell at Real Madrid, and he probably needed a job to rebuild his reputation, which he has done. So I think we might see that we can only get managers, like I said, who've struggled recently. Just to comment a bit as well about the Sean Longstaff story. Obviously we've seen that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is trying to build this young Man U team. He's obviously gone and got Wan-Bissaka, which is going to be confirmed today. And his next target, and he's bought the Daniel James from Swansea for 15 million as well. Now, he's identified Sean Longstaff as the next option for him. Now, I think for Sean Longstaff that if he was to move, it may be too soon. Manchester United is the club which has the most media coverage in this country. Longstaff has only played, I think, 12 Premier League games. He played really well, and he was really impressive, and he showed he's a really good footballer. But moving to Manchester United for a huge fee when the team is in kind of chaos, and you're going to be under the media spotlight, I just don't think it would be a good idea for Longstaff. I think as well, he's got to think that he has always dreamed of playing for Newcastle, and I think if he continues progressing as he did in those 12 games, then yeah, he'll be a top Premier League player and he'll play for England. I think he should definitely give us one or two more years, build up his experience, make sure he's the first name on the team sheet, and then if obviously bigger clubs come, I mean, it's frustrating as a Newcastle fan, bigger clubs, but with Mike Ashley as our owner, unfortunately, that is the situation we're in, where we are no longer enticing to fans, we are no longer enticing to players, and we have to accept that if a big club comes calling, that unfortunately we'd have to sell him. I also think the 25 million for him is a low price in the current transfer market. I think we could easily get 30, 35, and Ed Woodward, Man U under Ed Woodward, are a club who spend huge amounts of money and, with disregard. So I think we could actually push the price up for him if we were to sell him. I mean, the issue is with Newcastle is even if when we sell the players, we don't reinvest it in the team. So really the price, I'd rather have the player, but if we have to sell him, we should try and get the max out of him. The other rumour that's been mentioned is Perez to Valencia. Valencia obviously got back into the Champions League and are keen to add him. I think if we sold him now, it would be really sad for me because I was never a huge fan of Perez. I was at the beginning, but in recent, basically, the last 6 months, I've just thought he's back to the player that he was. And, he was really good at the start when he first joined Newcastle, and I think he stalled and he flattered to deceive, but his performances in the last half of the season was brilliant. So if we were to sell him, it'd be like a kick in the teeth. But if that does happen, then again, I think we should be looking at 25 to 30 million. And I think the North London clubs, Arsenal have obviously let Danny Welbeck go, and they usually play two up top, so they probably would be looking for a striker. And Spurs, with Llorente going, they're probably looking for another striker. So I think we could easily get some good money for those two, for Perez. It's frustrating. I don't want us to sell anyone. I want us to build, to be adding players. But at the moment, with the takeover, with no manager, with the chaos we're in, I think we just have to suck it up and think, what's the future? So yeah, guys, if you're liking these videos, please subscribe to the channel and let me know what you think. Thanks very much.